Good morning. Good morning. See, I'm saying good morning. I'm here in LA. It's still morning. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Revenue Hacks. Happy to be back here in the studio with the crew. My name is Tilokee. I'm the star of hotel memes. As you can see, you guys may know me on Revpar on Instagram. I also help hotels with their social media presence. Happy to be back in the saddle here, filling in for Christina. Our queen has left the kingdom, but we're holding it down. So, Christina, if you're watching, thank you for everything. We miss you, of course. I'm sure the audience will as well, but we will do our best to fill those big shoes. I'm going to introduce our established panel here today. We have some new faces, so we'll start with the old face, and I don't mean old as in age, old as in you've been here before, Mr. T.
That's because I don't have any hair that you're saying this, right? My name is Thibault Catala. I'm the founder and director of Catala Consulting. We are a company looking after hotels and help them with revenue management across Europe. And happy to be here as usual, and happy to see Anna and Judith here.
All right, so we'll move into our new co-host. Happy to have you here on the show. We'll start with Anna.
Hello, my name is Anna Sirba. I am operations manager at Harbour Hotel, and I'm extremely excited to join the team. Looking forward to it.
Happy to have you. And last but not least, Judith.
Hello, everyone. Judith Cartwright. I'm the founder and managing director for Black Coral Consulting, and we do help ultra-luxury hotels, restaurants, attractions, to optimize their revenues. Very excited to be here.
All right, sounds great. Sounds like you're the perfect person for today's panel. We're getting into the challenges that are facing luxury hotels. I think all hotels are facing some pretty obvious challenges, but excuse me, some that are unique to luxury hotels. So we wanted to start off the conversation with why do we want to be luxury hotels? What are our goals as a luxury hotel? And then looking forward into why should guests choose us, and why would a guest choose luxury hotels? So we'll kick it off. I'll just throw it out there. Whoever wants to grab that one and run with it to get us started.
Well, I'll probably say, because my experience is luxury hotels, so it's personal service. It's personalization. It's the experience that you get. It's everything about it from the start that you book the room until you check out. So you want to go to luxury when you celebrate special occasion. When you go for your birthday, you will go. You will search for luxury. When you go for, I don't know, wedding anniversary or any other occasion, I would say, this is what you want to deliver, and this is where you want to be. So, yeah.
I will tell you a small story on this one, because a friend of mine coming from a big brand, I come from luxury as well, from the luxury, some luxury hotels in Asia, and I send him a picture saying like, look at this, that's real luxury. And he say, yeah, I can see it. And I said, like, why do you see this? It's because it's empty. So when you say like you want some personalization and so on, you also want to feel exclusive. You want to feel that it's for you, and that you don't want to be with a crowd in a way. And the high luxury, you go there because it's much more exclusive. You pay the price for this, but it's much more exclusive and much more personalized, in my opinion.
Yeah, good point. Judith?
It's the experience that the customers are looking for. They're not coming to a hotel because of the hotel room or because of the price point. It's what everything else the hotel has to offer. And, like Anna was saying earlier, it's about special occasions that are, for celebrations. It's about the space. It's about the feel. It's about, what are they able to do once on property, but also in the surroundings. And ultra luxury now with the pandemic has, accelerated in terms of demand. A lot of destinations were in lockdown and were not accessible. And you can imagine the wealthy homeowners, they are not able to go to their destinations, or they weren't able to go to their destinations. So that has shifted the demand during the pandemic a lot onto the ultra luxury hotel sectors. And that was probably one of the few sectors that weren't impacted as badly as when you look at city hotels, for example.
Yeah, that's all great points. I mean, things have really changed for all of us, but it's especially the luxury segment. And we talked a lot of you guys commented all similar trend about experiences and creating that experience for the guest. One of the challenges facing the entire industry now is kind of adjusting to this new dynamic and the new market. How do luxury hotels continue to adjust their strategy based on some of the restrictions we may be seeing out there on it as it pertains to travel?
That's an excellent question. And I think, it depends which destination you look at. Some destinations, they still have restrictions that are imposed by governments where they're not able to sell to the full inventory. Other destinations, they do have a shortage of talent where they're not able to rehire the staff that they either had to send onto furlough or they have to make redundant. And now it's really up to the hotels from the strategic side to see how can they still optimize their revenues and how can they adjust to that demand. The demand is there, but you might not have the same amount of inventory available for sale. So I've seen a lot of creative ways where the hotels focused on selling villas and suites only, where they closed off the entry categories, where they were able to get a lot more yield for the space they had available. They had to readjust to which partners they're working with. At the same time, we've also seen a lot of the revenue management systems adjust their systems and their algorithms to cater to how the demands have shifted. We've also seen a lot of destinations where companies have relocated their families and their executive teams into destinations that were open and operational. For example, that's something that we have seen in Dubai in the first quarter, and we're seeing again now in the last quarter, where they take advantage of that. And we've also seen that luxury destinations, that they have taken the advantage to open up to those companies that wanted to invest. And they have issued visas, on a short-term or on a long-term basis. And they made it a lot easier for companies to set up and to establish and to keep their operations going. And I think that's really critical now in during this time and also going forward is how can you future-proof your business? And how can you make sure that you do stay in business, that you do stay in market, and that you find innovative solutions and not just say, okay, it's a pandemic, I have less inventory for sale. Restaurants, they had to readjust their meal periods, their timings, because they had to adjust their tables to adhere to the social distancing. They had to take tables off the floor in the restaurant. Attractions, they had to limit their capacity on how many people they can let in. And all that was adjusted by pricing. The demand was there, and it all goes back to the supply and the demand and how do you optimize what you have.
I've seen this shift as well from revenue management to profitability management, where people actually are much keener on understanding what is my impact on the bottom line. Because they understand, like, for example, if they increase their occupancy, they will have more costs, they will have they will need more staff and so on, which at the moment is actually a big issue. So I feel as well that those kind of analysis on the profitability, break-even analysis, how much I need to kind of break even on my cost and my revenue is very important. And as well, understanding, like, am I dropping my rate, I increase my occupancy, but I will need as well more staff and more costs. It has pushed as well a lot of markets and a lot of hotels to not drop their rates as much as they will in the past, because they understand the correlation with the cost. So that's why you see, like, on the latest STR figures, the ADR has been not as much impacted by the crisis as much as the occupancy, mostly because people understand that if they drop too much their rates, they will increase the occupancy, their cost will increase, the staff will increase, and at the moment they cannot handle those kind of things. So I believe there is this kind of shift coming from revenue management to profitability management. And then it will go back to revenue management with this kind of profitability in the future. But at the moment, profitability is key for survival of the hotels.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Sorry, yeah, that's especially as it pertains to luxury. I think luxury has always kind of had that more in mind as to not necessarily going for sellout every night, trying to make sure that we keep that balance between staffing and service, and also not too much wear and tear on the property, because I mean, you spend a lot more to furnish those type of hotels. But go ahead, Anna. Sorry.
Especially as you mentioned about staff, and obviously the current staff situation in the UK, especially, we all know how how it is probably everywhere. And especially in luxury, it's extremely important. So we have to make sure that staff trained, we retain them, and they can deliver the best quality, so the best service. So, and that also takes time. And so, any ideas about what we do about staffing in the luxury, especially?
Oh yeah, that's a.
We did
Yeah, let's
discuss
get
this
into
last
that
week.
one.
We
Yeah,
have
that's
discussed
a
it
big
too.
one. Yeah, that was one of our topics for today for sure. So let's get right into it now.
We did actually discuss this last week in London physically. We didn't come with any solution. No, I'm joking. We did actually, but still, it's a big topic. And if you're on the magic formula, please let us know, because we are all keen on understanding more on what to do here.
Yeah, I mean, well, I would say from personal experience, okay, I've worked in a bunch of different types of hotels. Towards the end of my hotel career, I finally got into luxury. It took a long time to get there, mainly because luxury hotels don't want to hire anyone who doesn't have luxury on their resume. And I spent a lot of time fighting this notion that I couldn't do revenue management for a luxury hotel because I'd never worked at a luxury hotel before, which makes absolutely no sense. If you know how to revenue manage, how is it different for a luxury hotel versus an airport hotel? That skill really isn't different. Are there certain things, certain nuances of every hotel? Of course. But I feel, and this is something I've seen with a lot of my career coaching clients, are having a hard time breaking through that barrier, because people don't recognize that skills are skills, and a lot of times people don't get that opportunity. So for me, that's one thing that I would say would help this ongoing staffing crisis. I mean, obviously this is a huge issue with a lot of different layers, but I think we need to be in this segment a lot more open-minded.
No, it's a good point, Calvin. And when I've been interviewing, or when I'm interviewing talent, especially on the ultra luxury sector, where hotels achieve a higher top line revenue than 3 or 4 city hotels combined. And depending on the size of the hotel, it can also be very unforgiving. If you do sell one booking at the wrong price point, it can have a big impact on revenues. Or on the other hand, then if you do sell it, at the optimal price point, it can have a huge impact on the positive revenue generation. And I think it depends on the person. As you said, if the skill set is there, that person can train and can learn on how to manage ultra luxury demand, and also understand on how to manage how this, from a strategic side, how things need to be managed. And I think if you have a strong mentor in place and an overall strong team, I think it's good. But I've also had the experience in the past that, when you do come from a city hotel, a 3-star, it takes a lot longer to adjust. And then again, it ends up costing the hotel money if that person isn't able to adapt very quickly. So you have to be very careful and selective during the interview process. And having said that, now, if there's a shortage in talent, if you do spot good talent, it's worthwhile investing that time in the person to get them up to speed very quickly.
I think.
And to summarize what we discussed as well last week in London, hi Abby, nice to see you. We had one of the key topics which was coming back, and I believe luxury hotels and as well all those hotels, they have the same issue when it comes to staff shortage on housekeeping, in front office, in a waiter, and in F&B. We are missing a lot of talents, and we believe there's this kind of bad perception of some jobs in the hospital industry, which are seen as more as temporary or like a student jobs, and not as a full-time respected jobs, which is completely untrue. And I believe it's us as an industry, we should work together to bring this awareness that our industry and some jobs are amazing. I mean, you can travel, you can meet a lot of new people, luxury segment, you work in a dimension which is fantastic. So I think like this kind of perception needs to be changed. And as well, we need as well to bring this awareness on the industry to new students to choose hospitality industry as a new career, but as well on a lot of people around to make them, to show them that our industry is fantastic and it could be very attractive and less boring than working for the big guns like Amazon, Apple, and so on. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm saying like hospitality industry is much better and much more fun in a way.
Yeah. And I think that's where IHG and Accor, they have this amazing initiative. I saw it for Australia, where you can take time off from your existing hotel and you can travel the country, and then they have jobs available on demand. And that way they're able to generate cross exposure. They're able to, for the employees, they're able to travel now because Australia has been, in lockdown for a very long time. And then at the same time, they can pick up jobs as they go and travel. And they have created an app, and I thought it was absolutely amazing, and such a great initiative to get people out traveling, but also to have the cross exposure across their portfolio, and to gain experience in different departments that they might not be able to get if they stayed in their job in the current role.
Yeah, it's a great point. I wanted to go back to one of the comments that came up, and Anna, I'll let you take the lead on this one when it comes up. But Andrew was talking about look at people's potential to develop. And that was something, that you mentioned, Judith. I think, training is really the key. When you hear things like, well, you don't have this experience, so we're not going to hire you. What you're really saying, what that person is really saying, we're not going to take the time to train you. We're not going to take the time to invest in helping you understand, because again, the point we're making here is if you can revenue manage, you can revenue manage. But if I'm going from a 2-star select service hotel to a 5-star hotel, obviously things that I'm going to need to learn, somebody needs to help me learn it though. So what that person is saying is, we're not going to help you. We just want somebody ready-made out of the box, which is not always realistic. But Anna, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not always realistic. And at the same time, I think we should not only look at the experience or the skill set that person got. Yes, of course, it is important, but the personality. And I think especially for luxury, personality of your staff plays a crucial role, because you want to talk to that person. You don't want to talk to the robot. You go for your experience, you go for your memories, and you want for that revenue manager, your reservations manager, your receptionist to be the person, to be somebody you will remember, to be somebody who brings you experience. And you can't really train. You can train to a certain level, but the personality is very, very important. And it doesn't matter if you're coming from 2-star background to 5-star background, you bring your personality with you, and then you can learn the system, and you can learn everything else, because hospitality is hospitality in the end.
Oh, yeah, that's another one. That's another big one is, you don't know these systems. Here you hear that a lot. Oh, you don't know Marriott, you don't know Hilton, must know this, must know that. And again, it brings me at least back to the same thing, that we're not going to take any time to train you. If you don't know this system, we're not hiring you. And I think especially in the climate we're in with, a quote unquote hiring crisis, this is the kind of mentality that's still out there. I've seen it personally. I've seen a lot of people that I work with personally deal with these obstacles now, but the industry is crying about, we can't find people, but the person must tick 15 boxes before they get an interview. I mean, there has to be some kind of leeway here.
That was a very good point. And Thomas last week Thomas Finn was talking about it, saying like, if you have a good talent in your pipeline, move very fast, because it's a bidding war outside. Everyone is bidding for the good talent. If you have a good person with a very strong skills, and maybe the technical skills needs to be trained and so on, but you believe is the right fit, move fast. Don't go with 1,000 of different interviews. Don't ask for different psychometric assessments, so on. Move very fast, do an offer, and hire. I think that's very, very important.
Very often not knowing the system is actually beneficial, because for your personal property, you can tailor-made that person, where you get somebody who's already trained, knows their ways, and they stuck to their ways, and they demand on that training, and then you it's very hard to retrain sometimes. So yeah, don't be scared to get somebody in with no experience or no right experience, if you think so.
Yeah. And I think, Anna, you nailed it on the head. It's down to the system in place and the process. So you have the department head that might send the requirements of what he or she needs, the skill set that they need for the position to fill, and then not understanding the HR systems in place. Then, in HR, somebody then will load those requirements into the system. And then if you don't tick those boxes, then you fall through the roster and you don't even make it onto the table. And you might have the right attitude, you might have the right skill set. It's just that you didn't tick one box, and that's how you didn't make it into the roster. And it's the same, if you were to look at revenue optimization, if you don't understand the systems, you have to learn, and then you can optimize the revenues. But then if the department heads doesn't understand the system that HR is using, and if there's no correlation and they're working in silos, and I think that's a huge opportunity for hotels to work together, to understand one another, and then also to make sure that the CVs land on the table of the department head then to make that selection. And, when you speak to industry professionals and people that have left the industry, very talented staff, and mainly in Europe, also when you look at the high amount of overtime that is being done, especially in the operational departments, without being compensated. And they have found jobs in other industries that are higher paid, and people are able to get home to their families on time. And I think that's just where the hospitality industry has to take a big shift in adjusting and making that more attractive to people to reapply.
Yeah, that's a great point and great information. I wanted to get back to a comment that Adele popped up here. She's saying that she's seen hotel owners are worried that non-luxury revenue managers won't be bold enough to go for high rates. If job seekers can prepare for that objection, it could help. To me, I mean, I guess it's because I've had years of experience. It's just, to me, it's such a silly objection, right? It's like, if, like I said, I've revenue managed anything from a Courtyard to a 5-star boutique hotel. I know that I can't charge $900 a night at a Courtyard. That's just not going to happen, right? That, to me, that is just such common sense for any revenue person, anybody who's selling or marketing anything, that you can't do everything the same way. And I actually came across an example that I thought was appropriate for this conversation over the weekend. I don't know if you guys have seen that Disney movie Soul. All right. So I Googled it the other day, just looking for something, and I saw that the person who made the music was Trent Reznor. And I knew that the name sounded familiar. So I Googled who he was, and he was the guy who made the music for 9 Inch Nails, which is a heavy metal, head banging kind of thing. And it's like, this guy knows how to make music, that kind of music, but he also knows how to make music for a Disney movie. It's almost like, if you know how to make music and you know your audience, you know what to do. And right, it's like, if you know how to revenue manage, you know how to sell, you know how to do marketing, you know how to do operations. If you can do it one place, you'd have to just kind of pivot your approach, but you can do it at another place, And I get that that's an objection. I know what Adele is saying, because again, I think a lot of us have run into that. But for a hotel owner to even think that, to me, is silly.
I agree. I agree as well. On the luxury segment, the biggest difference I've seen in revenue management, it's okay. Levels of pricing are different. The biggest difference is the flexibility between the lowest and the highest price that you are charging the guest. But it's just like it doesn't go as low or as high as you have from one day to another, but it's still the same pattern on a different level. So the application of revenue management 101 are the same, 100%. Now the flexibility and the dynamic pricing that you have, or the level of creativity that you have for a lot of discount or whatever, are a bit different, of course, but the revenue management 101 are the same. So that's not a good objection.
I agree, absolutely. It's exactly the same. So revenue management, it would be you apply the same techniques. So you go through your guest journey, you know who your guest, you know how much they're willing to pay, and you know how much you want to, how much you can charge. So you know your top line, you know your bottom line, and you know your costs. So you know how much you pay your staff. So it's all back to basics, but yeah, you just apply it to different properties at different levels. So completely the same.
Yeah.
And I think like there was one comment. It was from Adele again. Adele is very active today. Thank you. It's very important to have a cultural fit. For me, if I have two candidates for the same position, one being super technical with spot on skills and everything, but not the right cultural fit, one with the best cultural fit but needs a lot of improvement on the technical and art skill, I will go for the cultural fit 100%. I think it's very important to have people around you that you want to work with, rather than the top performer who is by himself but not like not a right cultural fit. So cultural fit is a heart of everything, 1%.
Definitely.
Yeah, that actually, it reminds me, there was there's a guy, a chef here in America, forget his name right now because it's 5:30 in the morning for me, so my brain's not completely functioning at its highest level here. But he started a restaurant, and he ended up being on Martha Stewart's show and Chopped, which is a big cooking show here. But he said that when he was hiring for his wait staff or any staff, people who had lots of F&B experience, he didn't even look at them, because he found it harder to train those people. He's like, if you have the right attitude, I'm hiring for attitude and for that cultural fit. I could Snoop Dogg, Jesus. So, production is not supposed to throw you off during the show, are they? He said, if you're hiring for that attitude. He's like, I could teach anybody the menu. I can teach anyone how to present my menu and how to do that. What I can't teach them is how to connect with the guests and how to be engaging, So it's a really good point. Judith, you've been quiet, so I want to get you back in here. What are your thoughts on this part of the conversation?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you have the right attitude, you can train anybody. And, especially when you look at revenue management or revenue optimization, I always told the people on the ground, every single person is a touch point on how revenues can be optimized, revenues can be driven. And in the past, I've also implemented, revenue management academies where anybody was able to complete the courses to, one, understand, is revenue management something that they would like to do? And then two, we had a mentorship program in place where we were able to help people, grow on their skill set. But the right attitude is definitely important. And then with the right attitude, anybody can learn. And when you look back at your early starts in your career, you didn't know anything, right? But you wanted to learn. And that's how you have acquired the various skill sets with the right guidance and a mentor. In the past, I always dreamt about being in sales, until I had a very good mentor who said, you know what, Judith, I think a numbers-based job will be a lot more fitting for you. And then I was coached at the time into revenue management, which was still quite new, especially in Europe. And without that guidance, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think again, it goes back to that training and having people who will take the time to kind of help and guide you. And we're not doing a good enough job of that as an industry, which is leading to a lot of this hiring crisis. But I wanted to pivot back more into the conversation specific to luxury. One thing that we talk about on this show a lot is technology and adopting technology in hospitality. The luxury segment, again, because it needs so much personalization, how do you see that fitting into that segment, and what are the challenges around the luxury segment adopting technology?
I think it depends, again, what your product is that you're trying to optimize and what the overall strategies are. And then you need to see which technology you need. Do you need a revenue optimization system in place? Do you need a strong distribution infrastructure? What's your target audience and who are you selling to? But ultimately in ultra luxury, it's important that you don't compromise on rate. And Calvin, you mentioned that earlier with a lot of hotels coming back online at the same time, that there is a lot of competition out there. And unfortunately, that's something that we continue to see now with destinations that are opening back up, because owners and hotels are desperate for cash flow. And the first thing they do is they compromise on rate versus focusing on the experience that Anna has mentioned earlier. And then you just enter the price war, right? And instead of seeing, what do we have to offer versus what the competition has, how can we differentiate ourselves? And then you focus your marketing strategies around that. Then you don't have to talk about your price point. And that, I believe, is absolutely key and critical. If you attract the wrong type of customer, you don't get the on-property spend. And then it's just a vicious cycle. And then you were a luxury product before, but then you can also very easily slip into no longer being luxury. Because your costs, Thibault, to your point earlier, the costs aren't able to sustain that.
Yeah, there was really good comment from Adele, and she's saying that with luxury, I'm more likely to try out value before touching the rate, which is 100%. So go back to your systems, go back to your website, just make sure that it's all smooth and you can book and you get the experience from actually looking at where your property is, how you get to it, how you book it, how you receive your confirmation. Add value to all of that before you actually try to play with your rates. And then, so just make sure that all of your processes are so smooth that you don't have to discount.
Yeah. And as well, one of the comments we received from Pablo, it was a few minutes ago, saying like most of the admin tasks are done by software now. And then the staff left on property should focus on delivering a value to the guest, focusing on much more on those kind of activities. I think it's very important. See technology not as a replacement of the staff, but more as an extension of the team to allow and have a much leaner or agile team on property with extension and to increase efficiency with the tech. And then changing as well this perception that technology is not the right fit with highly luxury hotels. I think I've seen this kind of comment going back saying like, yeah, but we're highly luxury, we shouldn't go with too much technology. People want some. It's still, you still can do a lot of technology to actually evolve and make your operation much more efficient, and to see your team as an extension, the technology as an extension of the team, and remove this kind of mindset saying like technology is not for luxury. I've seen some highly luxury hotels embracing technology and getting some market share because of this.
Yeah,
and
that's a great point. Go ahead, Judith.
And Thibault, technology, you rightly said, is only as good as the users.
100%.
Have the right technology in place, but again, train the team to use the technology efficiently. Otherwise, it's garbage in, garbage out, and it's always easy to blame the system when things go wrong.
Right.
Now, plus use technology, make the technology work for you and don't work for the technology. Because people, they want to leverage a lot of tech stack, a lot of apps and so on, but they spend more time managing the tech and the app rather than doing something else to leverage the tech to do something else. So be very cautious on this.
Know who your guests are. Like, will your guests use that type of technology? Is it like a super new modern TV that your guests never going to turn on, or fancy I don't know, a switchboard or something else? What kind of technology fits your hotel and your guests, and use that and invest in that instead of going just for fancy, sexy stuff that you never going to use or your staff will not use because it's not required.
Start with a guest journey. Everything should start with a guest journey. Map your guest journey and then build your tech stack. Not the reverse. Not take the tech stack and then look at what your guest journey are. And a lot of people are forgetting this point. But it's all about the guest and the guest journey, and then you should make the tech stack and the team and so on build around this. And that's a very important point.
Yeah, I have actually an example. About a month ago, I stayed at a property luxury resort, and they have an app. And you guys can clearly tell I'm an extrovert. I talk to everybody. But when it comes to like ordering food and that kind of stuff, I would still rather not speak to someone. If I can do it on an app, I will. So we were using the app. I stayed in the room for 24 hours. We ordered everything on this app. The day I was checking out, I was trying to order breakfast, and it wasn't working. Then I called the room service. I was on hold for a couple of minutes. Ended up calling the front desk. I explained the situation, and the guy took my order, and the food was there. Right. So I think that's a perfect example of what Thibault was talking about. Is it's there to supplement the staff, but not replace. And you have to make it work for you. It wasn't like, well, oh, sir, the app's not working. Wait until it works, or anything like that. They still were able to merge that luxury personalized service with tech that worked. So also I wanted to.
Yeah, no, sorry. See it as an option. Like you have an option to order via Alexa. You have an option to order with a phone. You have an option to order on a QR code. It's more as an option because my grandmom will not use a QR code. She doesn't have this kind of thing. But I will be using the QR code. So I think you use the tech as an option to the client to match the guest journey rather than just do tech for tech.
Yeah, make sure that your staff is aware of the options and they trained on all of that, so they know how to tailor-made experience to every guest that you get in a hotel. So
and we had a comment from a new viewer, someone Christina. I don't know how to pronounce that name, but she's saying tech can be a huge focus for luxury, but it's using the right tech and the right partners. And I think that's kind of what Thibault was talking about. Map out your guest journey first, and then adopt the tech that's going to fit that, as opposed to doing it backwards. So we have a few minutes left here. So I want to get into another topic that we were talking about backstage. A big part of luxury in the luxury space is reputation management and your guest reviews. And Anna, you brought this up, so I'll let you lead off this part of the conversation. How do we continue to focus on that in the right way in luxury?
Perfect. So I just read the comment from Adele, and she was saying there are gaps between what you promise and what your reviews say you deliver. And I think that was one of the crucial. So make sure that you talk to your people again, go back to your guests, get your reviews, get your questions right, see what their feedback is, and make sure that you deliver that which you say you will deliver. So if you get a feedback saying go to TripAdvisor, go to all of the third-party websites where people can leave the comments, send them questionnaires and everything, and make sure you collate all of that information and you actually go back and review it. Because the current online reputation is huge. Everyone can go everywhere and have a look what people say, and the final decision will be based on the feedback on websites, social media, or somewhere else. So yeah, especially in luxury, when somebody's choosing to go for honeymoon break or propose or do something, I don't know, birthday, 50th birthday or big birthday celebration, this is what people are gonna look at.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's kind of what you brought back to the beginning, because in luxury people are typically staying there for a special occasion. The margin for error is just a lot slimmer. You know what I mean? These are huge occasions, big memories that people are coming for, and if you drop the ball even in the slightest, it's a bigger thing than if someone who's staying at a corporate property on a Tuesday night because they're traveling for business. There's a lot more leeway there, so that's a great point.
Plus, managing your reputation, your online reviews and everything is very important for anyone, actually. And I will put my revenue manager cap, but having a high reputation, you can actually push your rate higher, because having a higher reputation online will lead to a higher demand on your properties, and then you can push for higher pricing and higher everything. So it all starts by having a great service, managing your reputation, listening to your customer, as you mentioned, answer to the review online, bad or good, but make sure you take those kind of feedback into consideration, identify the pattern, because you will have some patterns going back. The shower not working, 1, 2, 3 comments, 10 comments, that start to be a pattern. I need to do something. Right. And I think that's very, very important here.
I think it's also very important, to train your staff to be able to preempt what how to really impress and wow the customer. But at the same time, also to empower them to take decisions on the spot without having to check back with a manager. Especially if you look, in the restaurants or at the front office, and if there's a guest complaint, are they able to solve it right then and there? And do you trust them to solve it in a way that it doesn't even come onto the reviews, but that the guest leaves with a positive feeling?
Yeah. Yeah, we're having there's a whole other show going on in the comments.
Christina, she's seeing the show.
Yeah. But talking a lot about the staff following up with reviews and things, and it again reminded me of some recent events of my own. So for that hotel, the resort where I stayed that had the app, that was my second stay on my birthday weekend. The first day didn't go so well, because they dropped the ball on some things, which is a long story, too long for this show. But when I was there for 3 nights, I checked out after 2. When I was checking out, and this is where I knew the hotel had real problems. When I was checking out, the guy at the front desk says, "Oh, I see that you're supposed to be staying for another night. You're checking out early." I'm like, "Yes." It's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." That was it. He never asked me what the issue was. He never followed up. "Oh, how come you're checking out early?" And that bothered me from a multitude of different directions. Again, like Thibault, if I'm putting my revenue manager hat on, this is money walking out the door. I know that I'm supposed to have a whole other room night of revenue, and I'm just letting it walk out without a question. And then from a customer service standpoint, operations standpoint, why would you just let me leave without asking me why I'm leaving? Is there an emergency? This is something we did, whatever it was, something you did. But that probably tells me he didn't want to hear it. So that hotel's got real problems. You know what I mean? So that is, such a huge point, a huge part of how you manage the reputation. I mean, we need to know. And that ultimately goes back to the leadership, right? Because clearly they haven't created this culture where they even want to know these problems.
That's what I was going to say. They will not ask a question because they don't want to go into this discussion. They don't want to have the bad answer, saying like, "Oh yeah, my stay, this one was not working, this the food was not good," and so on. They don't want to have this kind of discussion. So they just said, "Okay, thank you, you're leaving earlier. Sad to see you leaving. Bye." But
Right.
I think it's very important to encourage guests to give us feedback before they leave, because if they don't say anything and don't give you feedback, and you have the opportunity to recover before they leave,
Right.
they will massacre you. They will kill you online, and that's the worst thing that can happen. So encourage anyone at any level to ask for as much feedback as possible, as early as possible. That's very, very important.
Because in the end of the day, that's all gonna impact your rate, your bottom line. You will be surprised why you're not getting that many. Demand is low, and etc. etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, from the revenue side of my brain is like, man, you got business like that where you could just let people leave without even worrying about it. I mean, in most places in the world right now are struggling. Everybody's fighting for business. It's you can't afford that from any standpoint. You can't afford to just have guests walking out and potentially never coming back. But let's see. Let's get into one more comment. We got about a minute left. Let's see who we got. Christina's taking over the comments.
Yeah, we had some comment about I think if I understand correctly, the work-life balance, and I think that was a great one. Yeah, and I think the real challenge here, which keeps going back, and we should actually do a full show on this one. It's mental health, and how complicated the last few months have been for our industry. And I know that everyone is actually struggling with this kind of mindset and mental health, and that's very important for us to all stay together and remain quite strong in the recovery. But I think mental health is one of the biggest issues I see in our industry, because we have been one of the most impacted industry in the last few months because of the tourism. But not only us, but the whole new world has been impacted by mental health. So it's a very important topic here.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think based on a lot of what we talked about here today, I think that's where you can use the technology in the right way to kind of supplement your staff. You make things a little easier, like Pablo said, let's get rid of some of these mundane things. There's no reason anybody at the front desk needs to have a 2-page checklist of reports to run and stuff like that. Let's automate as much of that as possible. Let's stop chewing people up and spitting them out, and making their 10-15 hour days as hard as possible. I think simple things like that can help, with the mental health. There's nothing we can do. I mean, hotels are open 24/7, so that's never going to change. We do need to work long hours, but we can do a lot better in industry.
Yeah. Plus checking as well quite regular with your staff to see how they are going.
Yeah.
If there is anything they're missing. Like I think that's just kind of not daily, but weekly or monthly checkup to see like, how are you? Anything I can do to help. Encouraged to have some activities outside work. I know it can be very complicated, but for me, for example, I run a lot, and running has been kind of a help for the pressures that you have on a daily basis with the day-to-day work. Doing something outside, be it meditation, be it yoga, being sport, being whatever, you and your team, I think you should encourage to have those kind of sport and activities.
Yeah, I had to read this twice, Rajesh, because I thought, in order to help your staff, you have to fire them. I was like, that's not what we're going for here. But this is a good analogy. Follow up, initiate, respect, and engage. Absolutely. You need to follow up with your staff a lot more than once a year. You can't just do one annual review and slap them with everything for the past 12 months. It needs to be an ongoing process. And this is what is going to keep people engaged in the job and feel less stressed and feel like they're going somewhere. It comes back to that training point that Judith brought up early in the show. If we're not training people, then they're going to get burnt out. They're going to leave the industry. And that's why we constantly have this turnover. So we're actually over time. I knew it would happen. We had a lot to talk about today. I knew we would get into it. So we're over time here. Next week, we have the great Rupesh Patel on the show with us. We are asking questions you always wanted to ask your GM. So you have a week to make a list. It better be a good one. I'm sure the comments next week should be really, really fun. You may want to create a dummy LinkedIn profile and just ask anything you wanted to ask that can't get traced back to you. But we're going to wrap up here. Welcome again to our new co-host, Anna. Judith, it was great having you as well. And
great pleasure.
We will see all you guys next week.
Perfect.
See you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Peace.
My words will never ever leave.